Hey guys, it's Ashton, and this week we are talking about therapy, or mental and emotional health. That's what it is, but therapy is involved. I think essentially Jack said it. Didn't want to get into an argument of whether therapy should be forced or not, but just the positive aspects that therapy has. I don't believe that anyone should be forced to go to therapy, but I do think it's definitely something that's really positive and good for you when you're going through this. So I guess the reason that I think it's important is because I feel like therapy helped me to realize that there might be social situations that come up that that I hadn't really considered, and it helped me on how I would deal with those situations. Because in all honesty, at least from my point of view, the physical part's the easy part. That only affects you and your body, but it's the societal changes as far as how people treat you and interact with you once those physical changes start to happen. So therapy really helped me to realize that just because I'm okay with who I am doesn't mean that the rest of the world will be, and how I'm going to cope and deal with those changes. And I went to therapy for a little while before I started transitioning. I haven't been back since, but I know that it's always an option if something comes up that I don't feel like I can deal with. So luckily for me, I have my girlfriend to talk to, and it helps. She's really she is a women's studies minor, and is in a communications major, and she takes a lot of classes on gender and communication, gender and society, and so it really helps me because I'm able to bounce a lot of things off of her. But if I guess the other thing is if we were willing to offer who our therapist was to give out that information. And in the DFW area, I live in Dallas, but it's the Metroplex DFW, and I went to Felicia Porter. She's pretty well known as far as trans clients in Dallas, and I believe there's an option in Fort Worth. I don't have that information, but if you wanted it, I would be able to get it because I know someone who knows someone, kind of deal. Anyway, but generally Felicia is who everyone goes to, and if you need any of her contact information, then I'm more than welcome to give that to you. She's really awesome. She deals mostly with the LGBTQIA, whatever, the community. So the next thing was how we manage our emotional and mental health, and what has worked and what hasn't. I really think that even before you start this process, and even as you go through it, you always need to take some time to step back and evaluate where you stand. And what I mean by that is, how is transition affecting you emotionally, as far as the way that society is interacting with you, and you want to make sure that you stay true to yourself as an individual, regardless of gender or perceived gender or whatever. Because the reason I say that is I went through a phase for a brief amount of time where I started to let society's idea of what a male should be influence who I was, and that's not what I wanted this for. I wanted to still be me. I just wanted to be comfortable being me. So I think you always need to take time to yourself, and even if you need to, go see your therapist and try and work through, what you want, and then, what society sees, and how to find a balance between that. So I would say when looking for a therapist, I can't tell you what exactly not to look for, because there's a lot of things I've taken. I took a class called LGBT Psychosocial Health, and there's a lot of things that as a therapist you wouldn't want to do to throw people off, like decorating your room in your office in Jesus stuff is not a good idea. Not to say that you wouldn't be accepting of people, but a lot of times the gay community takes that as it puts them off, because there are so many Christian people who are against gay and transgender people. So, but what I can tell you is how to look for a therapist. I did research online, and then I found trans guys. I was lucky enough to know some trans guys in my area, so if you know other trans people, just ask them and ask for recommendations. Otherwise, if you're in an area that has an LGBT resource center, definitely contact them and see if they have anybody. I know that there's a youth group here in Dallas who has a transgender woman who runs that, and she is very, I think she has a lot of valuable information to offer people. So I just check out any resources there are within the LGBTQ community in your area. If you're unlucky and you, if there's nothing, if you live in a smaller area, you might have to do some traveling in order to find somebody that you're really comfortable with and they're comfortable with you. So I would be prepared to travel if you live in a smaller area. Let's see. Sorry, I have to scroll down on my list. I tried to make some notes, so this was a little more organized this week. Other than therapy, what do you do to manage your emotional and mental health? I have found that going to the gym helps me a lot. It's not just a physical health thing, it's also, I've realized that the better I feel about myself physically, the better I feel emotionally. And also, going to the gym gives me some time to just I think, well, when I do weights, I'm not really thinking about anything but lifting weights, because I focus on my form and stuff. But when I'm doing my cardio, it just gives me time to process through all kinds of things. And so I found that I actually really enjoy going to the gym by myself, because it gives me that time. And then also, if I have any pent up aggression or irritation with the world or anything like that, I feel that by the time I walk out of the gym, that's kind of subsided, because I've been able to work it off, I guess. So I feel like that's been really healthy for me, both mentally and physically. But ultimately, like I mentioned before, I guess my lesson of the day, and that I had to learn, is that you just always want to stay true to yourself and not let the rest of the world tell you who you need to be. And that happens, that happens with people, I hate all these words, cisgendered people as well. You're told from day one what colors to wear, how you should be, and I think we are given an amazing opportunity to develop ourselves as a person outside of those, the social construction of what society tells us we're supposed to be. Because you have a female history, and then you're making a male present and future. Or for me, I just kind of pick and choose, and I am who I am when I am, and it doesn't matter. But so yeah, the point was just stay true to yourself, and don't let other people tell you who you have to be just because you are becoming a man or whatever your gender identity may be. So anyway, hope everyone's having a good week, and look, I'm getting some friends. I'm excited. Anyway, see you next week. Bye.